Do I know what I think I know? Because half the time when we produce, we're producing from a memory of what we think about our customers. Just because the slop is converting doesn't mean it's converting the right person. I just, in my gut, I was like, I think I'm going one level deep when I could probably go 7 levels deep emotionally. What you do need is a very carefully constructed ad stack. So that's the TEEP structure, TEEP. There's not a whole lot you can do about people copying you. There is a whole lot you can do to make it harder to copy, however. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Sarah Levinger. I am a D2C consultant. I currently help e-commerce brands use psychology to improve their ad account success, specifically when it comes to the creative side. And I do a lot of work around consumer behavior and understanding why people buy. If you guys want to follow me at Sarah Levinger, basically anywhere you consume content, or come check out the Skool. It's skool.com/tether-lab. That's where we have a bunch of creative strategists. We have over 200 of us in there now who are learning how to use psychology in their ad work. One of the biggest things that I see from an ad account structure that tends to be a pretty big problem, specifically for people who are running the creative part of ads, is not necessarily which ads go where. It's more about how we actually set up the ad account from a behavioral standpoint. A lot of times when I come in and I audit brands or ad accounts, I'll see very old school kind of mofu bofu tofu, that type of thing. Or I will see a range of things. Some people have like 15 campaigns running. Some people have one tester, one scaler. Some people have very definitive things broken out. In my mind, especially since Andromeda is a thing these days, most of the time you don't necessarily need a very complex ad account structure to be able to get things to work. What you do need is a very carefully constructed ad stack, right? I'm talking about the ads themselves, not necessarily how the campaign is structured. My typical setup from a campaign side is 2 campaigns. I have a scaler and I have a tester. The scaler obviously is where we put all of our winners. Anything that does well, we drop it into this particular campaign and continue to feed it budget. Any of our testing though, and our testing ads that we're doing has a very distinct ad stack structure from the ad set standpoint. The ad set is where I want to actually put most of my effort into. I typically branch this out into 4 different ad stacks, 1 tester campaign, 4 different ad stacks. The ad sets are broken up by how people actually shop from a behavioral standpoint. So there's basically 4 different phases that you want to pay attention to and draft your ads towards. Trigger phase has to do with somebody who just found out they had this problem, right? So it's an acute issue, something that just popped up, or possibly a new symptom that popped up around a long, like chronic problem. That's the first ad set that I want to develop is trigger ads. Second ad set that I want to develop is explorations. This has to do with people exploring the industry. And a lot of marketers get this wrong. You have to make sure that you're helping them explore the industry, not necessarily your brand, your business, your products. The industry is where I want you to focus because this has a lot more to do with pain points, experiences, situations. So ads that help them understand what's available or what they should watch for when it comes to this particular problem. The third ad set that we always go towards is evaluation. And this one's my favorite because marketers are very good at this one. These are your before and afters, your us versus thems. This is where we start to look at what's actually different between my brand and everything else that's available out there. This particular ad set, we need to focus a little bit more on helping people understand why you're different, not just like comparing you to everything else, right? Your USPs, unique mechanisms, all those different. Purchase level ads, I wish people would run more often because they're very few and far between these days. We used to run them a lot more. Purchase level ads are just an ad that has the offer listed on it. So I want to see, are you running a BOGO deal? Is it 50% off? Can I get a discount here or there? We got to run more of these ads because they're harvesting all of the work that we're doing with the other ad sets, our trigger ads, exploration ads, evaluation ads, purchase ads. And these ads in particular tend to do pretty well, especially if you're running a lot of statics. So that's the TEEP structure, TEEP. And the TEEP structure itself has helped a ton of people, especially if you're the one managing the ads, figure out what to run towards the behavior that your customers are exhibiting. The TEEP framework was actually built off of, I can't take credit for it. It was built off of a Google study where they were looking at the messy middle, what they call the messy middle. So this TEEP framework, Google was trying to take a look at how people actually worked through their buying decisions or buying process in a digital ecosystem. So what they found was it used to be a little bit more linear. Like people would come into your ecosystem, they would land on your website, maybe sign up for your newsletter, They'd go through that entire welcome flow process, they'd get to the end and they'd go ahead and buy, right? That entire funnel system is what marketers just took and ran with over the last decade or so. Google, with their kind of new messy middle study that they did, found that people really don't go through that process as neatly as they used to. So now, because of social media, we've got a lot of people just wandering around. We have people who will go to TikTok and just binge a bunch of videos. They'll go to their sister and ask their sister what she bought. They'll go to their nephews. They'll go back to Google. They'll search pricing on Amazon. This is the messy middle that we're seeing. And this is the reason why I think TEEP is one of the best ways to account for this, because people are really being triggered into a purchasing process. They are exploring a lot. They are evaluating a lot before they hit like purchase level mental state, if that makes sense. So when you start to look at how do I break up all of my ads, how do I do my creative, or how do I process it so that we can hit all of these different stages of how people are naturally looking for products, I love TEEP for this because it helps me just capitalize on every single piece of the buyer journey, because there's no way for me to know where they are in this process, how long it's going to take them to get to a purchase, but I can create ads for every single portion of it. So that way I can gain access to all these customers. Mapping your ads to this is really interesting, especially if you're the type of person where you're really busy, you don't have a lot of time, maybe you've only got 20 minutes to sit down and develop your ads for this week. If that's the case, usually, depending on budget, I'll tell people to just make a small stack of ads for each category. So it could be 3 ads, right? 3 trigger ads, 3 exploration ads, 3 evaluation, and 3 purchase. Or if you really are short on time, every single week, we at least want to make 1 per category. So every time I go into the ad account, I'm taking a look at not just what's in here, what stories are in here, like what hooks are we using, those type of things. I want to make sure, did we drop in at least 1 new trigger, 1 new expiration, 1 evaluation, 1 purchase? Now, some people have heard me talk about a stack of 5 that I typically use. Stack of 5 is a little bit different strategy than the one that I just shared. Stack of 5 is if you have plenty of time, like every single week I've got a good team or I have enough time to develop all these different ads. I'll go ahead and create a stack of 5 in one category, so 5 ads towards trigger, but I'll develop it so that the formats are different every time, right? So usually I'll launch 1 video, usually a UGC or pro-produced video, whatever it is. I'll launch 2 statics, a GIF, and a carousel. That's the stack of 5 that I typically use. I will vary or differentiate the stories that are in each one of these formats of ads, but varying up your stack of 5 every time that you put it in the ad account really helps Meta try and figure out who's going to watch or consume this type of content. So it's up to you how you'd like to split out your strategies every week, whether you do 3 towards each category or 1 towards each category. If you have the time, though, and the ability to do it, I would suggest you at least run 5 different formats every time you load a new batch of ads into the ad account. Ooh. So what happens if you're trying to figure out what's kind of a healthy range of ads for you, right? So how do we break up the different percentages according to the categories of TEEP? This kind of depends on what your strategy is and what you're going towards. So with TEEP, there's lots of different ways that you could break up your amounts of ads that you put in every single week, every single month. In my mind, it depends on which section of the messy middle you're trying to activate. So oftentimes if I'm going for a more top of funnel customer, somebody who's pretty top of mind, they just experienced something that they're trying to solve, I'll put a lot more ads into my trigger ad set. That way, I can try and nail a little bit more specificity because those ads typically have a lot of situations involved with them. Meaning, I'll go after, did your dog just get out of puppy school and now you need to know what to do next? Or did you just get married? Those type of ads, right? So top of funnel is really well suited to trigger. If I'm finding that I'm having a really hard time just explaining my product, maybe the product's complex or it's got a lot of like parts and pieces to it, I'll put a lot more effort into the middle. So exploration, evaluation, do a lot of storytelling and a lot of proof building. So that way, by the time people get through my ads, I have a higher chance of getting people to actually purchase. So you can think of this as middle of the funnel. But again, those particular percentages of ads depend on what you're experiencing as a brand. If I'm just starting out the gate or if we're experiencing kind of a slowdown in revenue, I'll stack most of my effort towards purchase level ads. And that's mostly because we need a good amount of cash flow. So I can do a few trigger expiration evaluation if I'd like every single month, but for the most part, we're going to start putting a lot more effort into just generating good offers and getting people to come in and buy. If you're a creative strategist or copywriter or somebody who's in charge of actually developing the concepts for these ads that go into the ad account, one question you should always ask yourself is, do I know exactly what my customer's struggling with? And I asked myself this week because I was drafting new copy for my website and I was getting new ads prepped for the ad account. And I kept going down a rabbit hole because the headlines that I was generating didn't really hit what I thought they should hit. I just, in my gut, I was like, I think I'm going one level deep when I could probably go 7 levels deep emotionally. So oftentimes, especially as copywriters, creative strategists, media buyers, we don't have a lot of time. So most of our week is taken up by just getting things pushed out the door as quickly as possible. But I would encourage every single one of you to sit and think, do I know what I think I know? Because half the time when we produce, we're producing from a memory of what we think about our customers, not necessarily what is actually their problem currently. Some of this comes into play with research. Some of this comes into play when you start to actually look at what the customers are saying on your post-purchase surveys, your quizzes, all these different things. But in general, best thing you can do is double check your biases every single week. Does AI give you an edge? I think there is a very specific mindset around creative strategy right now and paid advertising and actually being on social media in general. The general consensus is that consumers hate AI, and I'm starting to see that marketers also hate AI too. It's just a necessary evil. We just don't have a choice. We have to do it this way if we're going to keep up. Now, I have not seen any statistical analysis that would prove that. I haven't seen a study or haven't seen someone definitively say AI is making my entire marketing stack better. But there are pieces of the marketing stack where it is incredibly helpful and does make your job a whole lot easier. The places that I see that is data collection, a little bit of strategy or analysis work, and then really, I would try not to use it for content, but on the production side, it does help us draft our briefs, get our scripts in place, and help us just pull all that together quickly. Now, the one thing we have to remember as creative strategists, as copywriters, as somebody who's in charge of this entire process is you can use it everywhere, but that doesn't mean you should. Most consumers these days haven't even touched ChatGPT or Claude or any of this stuff quite yet. A lot of marketers are very well versed in it. We are seeing kind of this war of the minds. We don't know whether this is something we should actively accept. And until the consumers make a decision and decide what they like and what they don't, I err on the side of AI should be used for all of my admin, data collection, like analysis work. Me, as the human, I will take care of the creative side. Oh my gosh, I feel that myself. When I constantly tell people, I'm like, okay, just because the slop is converting doesn't mean it's converting the right person. The kind of person who loves AI slop typically is not a customer that I'd really want to bring in consistently. So yeah, I'm with you on that one. It's intense these days. It's so hard to be a marketer. I'm like, this stresses me out. It's funny. If you're looking for places for AI to really just inject a lot more speed into what you're doing, I would say put it into the brief. Don't necessarily put it into the script. The script is something that we have to be very careful about because whatever we deliver to the creators or back to the AI, if you're using AI creative these days, that's going to be delivered usually verbatim, unless you have a creator that's fairly good at improvising. I like to put most of my AI work on the production side into the brief itself because briefs, in my mind, are pretty templatized. You should be able to have a brief that has everything on it, meaning your media buyer can read it, your editor knows what's going on, your creator can take some things away from it. The brief is just to keep us all aligned, and AI is very good at making sure that everybody has what they need because it can see a whole lot more. It's a pattern matcher, so it's really good about pulling in data that we haven't noticed. So use it for your briefs. Try not to use it for your scripts. As a CMO, typically your job is not necessarily to produce anymore, although a lot of CMOs are in the trenches these days. If I'm running a company, it's my job as a CMO to figure out where we're going next, direction-wise. The only thing I really want to ask my team every single week is, what are we optimizing for this week? And that one's a big one because as a CMO, oftentimes you're not privy to what's happening in the actual production line unless you go down and take a look at the actual machinery of people, what's happening in all of these different places. But if you can get with your creative strategist, your media buyer, your copywriter, all of them at least once a week, and ask them, are we all optimizing for the same thing? Then you can keep everybody aligned so we don't go off into the weeds and start working on stuff that we don't need to be working on. Ooh. So my weekly stack, when I'm going in and drafting brand new ads from start to finish, typically on a Monday, I will take a look at research. And this is where AI comes into play because AI is so good at going out, getting the information without me having to go through and actually dig and dig. I have my Claude projects typically set up to a bunch of different scrapers that will go out and take a look at our post-purchase surveys, our quizzes, all these different things that are bringing in customer data for us, and specifically current customer data. Second thing I have set up in that research phase is generational data. So I have a Claude project that will go out and basically scrape for anything that has to do with generational insights. I want to take a look at what are Gen Xers doing, right? What did they do 10 years ago? What is that particular generation sensitive to? What kind of world events did they experience? This will help inform the brain, the whole entire Claude project that I have. It will inform the brain of all the different things that I need to keep in mind when it comes to marketing towards a specific age group, because your age really does change how you consume things. The last thing that particular Claude project will do is go out and take a look around cultural things. What's happening in politics, economics, what's happening in pop culture. I'm trying to get a sense of what people are actually consuming and what they're being influenced by. The research part of this is all automated. AI will help me pull all of that information in on a Monday. It's my job to take a look at the report that it gives me on current things that are changing, all these different things. By Tuesday, I'm now into ideations. With ideation, I actually have a weird Claude project that's set up to play ideation games with me. It will sit there and it will prompt me for different things. For instance, I have one that will play a game where we mash up animal names together. If you have a gorilla and a caterpillar, it's a gorilla pillar or a catarilla. And these sound weird, but that's on purpose. I'm trying to get my brain into creative mode because I'm in logic mode almost 90% of my week. On Tuesdays are my big creative days where I sit down, play these very interesting ideation games, and then I go into creative mode. I'll take the reports of everything that came on Monday. On Tuesday, I'll sit down and start drafting what kind of ideas, what do we need to put to the ad account, those type of things. I haven't looked at the ad account yet. I'm just generating ideas. The reason for that on Tuesday is I don't want to bring in bias. As soon as I look at the ad account, all these cool, interesting, net new ideas go away because my brain will start to look at the data and try and flow into that state. So that's on Tuesday. Wednesday is the day that I start to take a look at ad accounts. So I'll go into all the ad accounts, pull down data, understand what's working, what's not, what's failing, those type of things. If I have a media buyer, I've probably already talked to him on Monday and Tuesday. So typically I don't even have to go into the ad account. I just ask that person what's going on. Let's talk about it. And then Wednesday afternoon, I will start another automation that will take all of my ideas and map it to what we're seeing in the ad account. So I've got all these really cool ideas that I came up with on Tuesday. I will map them to here's what's winning, here's the concepts and the scripts and the hooks that came out of our media buying conversation. And then it will go through and it will look at my stack of ideas and choose ones based upon what's winning, what's working inside the actual metrics. So that's all on Wednesday. The last half of Wednesday too, I will try and get a few briefs written if I can, because by Thursday, Friday, I need to start sending out new scripts to our creators. I need to start getting my designers prepped for new sets of ads, those type of things. On Thursday, I have basically a short stack that day that this is all writing. So Thursday is going to be my day that I write all the briefs to the ads that I've already created. Any sort of iterations that we're doing will get iterated and put into brief stack. I will also talk to my designer, my video editor. I'll let them know that we have stuff coming up and they should start prepping for it. I'll have them pull hooks or different clips, those type of things. Thursday is basically just big production, get ready day. And then by Friday, we should have all of those briefs and scripts, everything in the works. We've sent it out to our creators. We have all kinds of like production level stuff happening already. And then by that next Monday, I'm hoping to start taking a look at some of the clips that are coming back in. Now, this is only if you have a really short amount of time and you have a good team to help support all this stuff. But typically it works on an every other week basis. So every 2 weeks, I'm seeing new clips, new ads coming back in from all of our UGC creators. And if it's design level, like it's a static or something like that, typically we can get those in once a week, once every other week. So this is a condensed version. You could always spread this out. Maybe ideation takes you 2 days instead of 1. Maybe your briefing actually takes you 3 days and you have to push it to the next week. whatever system you like to use, just make sure it's consistent. Try really hard not to get off of that cadence, because that's when things go off the rails and we get bottlenecks everywhere and everybody gets stressed. So that's my week condensed. Now, any good creative strategist probably run into this, where you start to generate really cool ideas, you put them in the ad account, and then by that next Tuesday, you have 15 competitors who have all just copied the exact thing that you just worked so hard to come up with. How are you supposed to insulate from this or keep yourself protected, or like just keep your ads? It's almost impossible these days. So just take it with a grain of salt. There's not a whole lot you can do about people copying you. There is a whole lot you can do to make it harder to copy, however. I tend to lean towards concepts that are actually a little bit difficult to produce, which is the reason why I don't usually produce a lot of ads every single week. I'm going for maybe 10, 15 if I can really squeeze in a bunch of stuff. Overall, though, my goal is to create things that are actually more interesting to watch and more difficult to produce on purpose. One, because it makes us stand out as a brand. It's interesting content, more people will come in and watch it. But two, it's harder for people to copy it. So some formats that actually fit this really well. Green screen is one of my favorite formats because it's one of the ones that is a little bit difficult to produce. If I have a creator and she has something interesting in behind her, and whatever she has behind her is difficult to get access to, namely for me, it's a lot of studies, different things that you either have to pay for or possibly very distinct like backgrounds. Like you'd have to go to Chicago to be able to get that behind you, or you'd have to be in New York City to be able to get that. Those are the type of things that are a little bit harder for AI to produce because it can't quite get all the details correct. And you'd have to have a competitor in that particular space to be able to reproduce it. So green screen, I love, because if you put in enough things behind you, very hard to just steal it. The other thing, one of the other formats that I really love is podcast style. Now, anybody can steal podcast style setup. What they can't steal is podcast guests. It's very difficult, especially if you can get somebody on who's either high profile in your industry or somebody who has quite a lot of clout. So veterinarians, doctors, dermatologists, these type of things, especially if that person has a following and you can get a partnership with them. You really can't steal that. It's hard for anybody to duplicate that kind of success. So if you're struggling, people are going to come in and steal your stuff. I like to go more creative, harder, complex, more interesting style content, or just partnering with people who are real, because that's not easy to fake. Okay, so if you're looking for ways to educate yourself, to just start consuming a little bit more content around the human mind, consumerism, like how people actually make decisions. This book here, How Customers Think by Gerald Zaltman, one of my favorites. I can't get enough of this book. I have read it multiple times. I have lots and lots of like little bookmarks and things in it. This one is dense, so just be prepared. It takes a minute to get through it, but this one is very eye-opening into how like consumption, I guess, neural pathways get created and how people actually get to a decision point. It was very eye-opening for myself. Every time I read it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is me. But that one, I think, is probably one of the better ones that I've read. Secondary one, I absolutely love Switch. This one's really interesting. This one was by Heath and Dan Heath, How to Change Things When Change is Hard. This one taught me a whole lot about switching behavior. So if you have a lot of products where you're in a very saturated industry, supplements is one of them. How do you get someone to change their mind when it's like, I already have my supplement stack? Why would I change? This is a book that also tells you a whole lot about how humans think about changing their minds about things, because it all comes down to that emotional experience that you're having in the moment. I have lots more. Do you want more? I don't know. I have like books on books. Oh, I have tweeted at Rory Sutherland probably 5 times in the last month. I really enjoy the way this guy's brain works. And I think that's kind of the reason why I've followed Rory for years and years. Some of the things that I would ask him, this is harder to think about because I've asked him a lot of questions already. One of the recent ones I think I had written down was, if all consumerism is actually coming from this subconscious mind, 95% of our decisions are being made in this kind of emotional brain. Does that mean then that most of the emotion that we experience on the outside is fabricated? It's fake emotion. And I already kind of know the answer from a marketing side. Our job is to create some sort of almost fabricated emotion. But I want to know, does a consumer create their own fabricated emotion inside an advertising process? Is it happening on both sides, or are we eliciting an emotion? That's what I want to know. Who is it, chicken or egg? Who's emoting first? So that's part of the what I want to ask him is more just like brain stuff. Secondary thing I want to ask him is he thinks about things a lot of times backwards from most people. How do you cultivate that type of thinking? That's what I want to know because it's incredibly invaluable. Obviously, he's done very well in his career. All of his agency work has been fantastic. My question is, how does a marketer start to think like that, where you notice the patterns that just are underneath everything that nobody else notices? If you guys want to follow me at Sarah Levinger, basically anywhere you consume content, or come check out the Skool. It's skool.com/tether-lab. That's where we have a bunch of creative strategists. We have over 200 of us in there now who are learning how to use psychology in their ad work.